Greetings. Over 5,000 years ago, Africans developed something they called the concept of the diagram of the law of opposites. And it's a kind of forerunner to the periodic table of the elements. You see, Africans developed a belief system. They said that there's nothing new under the sun. There's no new thing. All things that are have been before. And they reasoned on the basis of their understanding that there were a fixed number of elements, which they characterized in general as earth, air, fire, and water, and that there were four general qualities: hot, cold, wet, dry. Of course, there are variations in between the opposites. But in terms of looking at this concept, they believe that there's nothing that exists outside of these parameters, that you could come up with abstract concepts like love or peace or abstractions, but in order to describe those abstractions, you have to come within the realm of the four elements and four qualities. So they understood that nothing exists outside of these parameters. And so this became a driving force in their development of science, because they began to look at the world and how it works, the causal relationship between things. And some researchers point out the fact that the inundation of the Nile, when the Nile rivers overflowed, that it created a season where the early Nile Valley Africans, they had a time where they could grow crops, and they were some of the first living human beings on Earth that had a time of rest, a time of exploration and science, because the river allowed them to develop a constant source of food that they didn't have to attend to at all times. In other places, you had to hunt every day, or you had to do something in order to sustain every single day. And there was no period of rest. There was no opportunity for study and research and analysis. And this blessing from the Nile gave them the opportunity to philosophize, to begin to ponder the questions of the universe, to look at the stars. So they developed the first stellar calendar, the first lunar calendar, and the first solar calendar. They developed an understanding that what's called a heliocentric view of the solar system. They realized that the Earth was the center of the solar system, and that the Earth was, that the sun is the center of the solar system, and that the Earth revolves around the sun. They developed this understanding early, long before Copernicus or any other persons around the world. So in terms of looking at this early belief system, this early science, it also led them to begin to look at plants. So ultimately, an individual known as Imhotep, considered the world's first multi-genius, developed a manual, a book in essence, that cataloged over 750 plants and their medical use, the properties that these plants had, and how they affected the human body. So the Africans early on began to explore science and learning, and to develop a system of mathematics and multiple systems of mathematics. In fact, the numerical system we now call Arabic or Hindu numerals is actually an African numeral system that was found in the first step pyramid of Saqqara. And the concept 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is actually predates Hindu or Arabic use of the system. That this numerical system existed in Africa some 5,000 years ago. So in terms of taking a look at the contributions that Africans made to human civilization, we can look at what went on in ancient Egypt and see that the evidence establishes that this was a group of Black people who ruled for about the first 14 dynasties. And this is the time when all 79 pyramids were built. It's the time when all of the major wonders took place. The architectural achievements, the science was developed during this period. And it's a fascinating study. But this concept, this philosophical concept of diagram of the law of opposites is at the core of the development of the periodic table of the elements, our advances in chemistry, our understanding of physics, and also developments in the use of mathematics. So this is a major contribution to human civilization that's undeniably part of the African heritage. So I bring this forward because this is something that should be understood, it should be talked about. This is a major achievement.